what's up, and welcome to the No Bullshit Manifestation Show. I'm your host, Kat Kozad, manifestation expert, money mindset and fulfillment coach, and multiple six-figure entrepreneur. Come sit with me while I spill the real tea on what it's like to practice using intentional manifestation, demystify all of the woo-woo and confusing bullshit that comes along with creating the life of your dreams, and give you a realistic view of what it's like to be on a personal, spiritual, and professional growth journey. The goal of this podcast is to support and guide you towards manifesting all of your dreams, shed light on the things that people are too scared to talk about, and encourage you to become the person who gets to have it all, be it all, and do it all. I am so happy you are here. Let's fucking do this thing. What's up, loves? Welcome back to another episode of the No Bullshit Manifestation Show. Today, I have such an incredible guest who came on to the podcast to talk about money, honey. Y'all know. Love talking about money on this podcast, and it was so powerful to be able to have a conversation with another incredible entrepreneur and woman in this space who is helping make such a positive impact in the lives of other people, and especially in their finances, and helping them create this sense of confidence inside of themselves through having that sense of confidence in their finances. And if you listen to the podcast, you've heard me say this a million times, but in this conversation, you'll hear us talking about how money manifestation oftentimes has absolutely nothing to do with money, and the way that our relationship with money is impacted comes from a position that most of the time had nothing to do with money in the first place. And just so many powerful bits of wisdom in this podcast episode with Becca Gonzalez. And Becca and I have been connected on Instagram for quite some time now, and her fiery energy is everything. And you will hear it come through in this podcast episode. But Becca is a mom, an entrepreneur, and the founder of Mind Her Business. After hitting what she saw as rock bottom within her own finances and scarcity mindset, Becca knew some sort of change had to be made, and she spent years working on her mindset with money and created a plan that better served her and her family when it came to their financial goals, which you'll hear all about in her introduction and her story to this episode. But this plan evolved into teaching female entrepreneurs like herself how to maximize their money and pay themselves more money and make a plan for their future with money. And Becca's mission is to continue teaching female entrepreneurs how to manage their money to maximize profit, build systems for their business, and go after their financial goals without having to give up the life that they love. And that is one of the most important things that Becca and I both really agree on when it comes to the way that we teach money and money mindset, money manifestation, making that money, honey, is that you do not have to compromise your life in order to create financial gain. You do not have to give up everything in order to have this big, beautiful life that you're wanting to create for yourself. And it truly comes through changing your relationship to money and creating this abundant foundation inside of yourself to then have an abundant fucking bank account. So without a further ado, I hope that y'all enjoy this episode, and here's Becca. Alrighty, everybody. We have Miss Becca Gonzalez here with us on the No Bullshit Manifestation Show today to talk about money, our favorite fucking thing on this podcast. So, Becca, thank you so much for coming on to the show.
I'm so thrilled to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. So let's kick this show off with you telling us your story with who you are and what has led you to be in the position that you're in and doing the work that you do.
Okay. I'm Becca, like Kat said. Thank you for having me. I started this actually started on a debt-free journey before it even turned into just money in general. But about 6 years ago, my husband and I got married, and I brought a whopping $90,000 in debt to the marriage, and he brought a whole $0. He brought zero debt to the marriage. And so right out of the gate, I felt guilty that I had that much debt. And I felt like I was doing our marriage a disservice. Like I had done something that had already put us on the wrong path being married. And so what we decided to do was take a financial course together, a popular financial course, and we started getting out of debt. The problem was, I quickly spiraled into obsessive, negative mindset and habits. Like it was not just thinking we were never going to be at the goal that we wanted to be, like the finish line, right? It wasn't just that. It was also controlling literally every dollar that came in this house and every dollar that left. So much so that my husband came home from work one day. He'd worked 14 hours at work, and I met him at the door. If you have ever seen my Instagram, I'm very sassy. It's just a part of who I am. I met him at the door, and I'm sure my hands were on my hips because that's a natural state of being for me. And I scolded him for spending $1 on a drink at work, a single dollar, because I had been obsessively checking the bank account all day. Do we still have this amount of money? Do we still have these bills to pay? Like, what is going to change in 3 or 5 minutes, right? And so the face that he gave me, he didn't say a word, but the look that he gave me was literally enough for me to go, okay, something has to change. We cannot continue to live like this. We are not having fun. We're not enjoying our marriage. We're not going out to eat. We stopped our savings. We stopped investing. We stopped all of the things that we had already been doing when we got married. And so that was a pivotal point for me. I looked at his face and I thought, I'm going to ruin our marriage before we really even get started doing fun stuff. And so maybe a couple of months later, I found out we were pregnant with our first child. And I was like, okay, it's time. It's time to get control of the debt, but also figure out a way that works for our family so we can go out to eat and we can go on vacation and we can take our newborn baby to the zoo if we want to. Like, I wanted a life of and can, and we were not living that way. I was controlling everything. And so what we did was we sat down and we wrote out our financial goals, like our big, huge, scary, sky's the limit goals. And then we just wrote out a plan that we both agreed with, and we just started walking it out every day. And even if it was just a small step, but if we could take that small step every single day, at the end of even a year, you've come a really long way. So that alone was incredibly helpful. But I also had to do a lot of inner work. I had to figure out why it was that I controlled money the way that I did, and why I thought that I had to control money the way that I did. And it's still, still things come up all the time. I've been coaching around this for several years. And just in January, I had a whole money spiral. It happened very quickly before I understood what was happening to me. But the difference is, now that I've done all this inner work, I realized it was happening and I knew exactly how to stop it very quickly. And so I think it's the mindset piece is probably 80%, right? And the money piece, the actual habits of your money, is really only 20%. So, anyway, I started coaching friends and family. I was telling everybody that I could speak to about what we were doing and how it was working so much better for us. And that spiraled into a business. And then my business evolved into helping women who own businesses how to stay in control of their money without white knuckling it, right? Without saying, well, I can't spend any money. I can never do this. I can never do that. So that's how I got to where I am today.
So powerful. So fucking powerful. And even just in that little introduction and like your story, I know that so many people are going to resonate with your experience and what you've been through, because that's with all of the women that I work with, very much so the reality a lot of the time is that the different teachings that are out there are so restrictive or so limiting that it creates even more guilt and shame in the relationship with money than there was prior to it, or creates like financial avoidance because there's so much like tension and resistance around money.
Yeah. And honestly, the guilt and the shame is enough to stop you from whatever you want with your money. I mean, that is enough, and it's self-inflicted. If you think about it, it's only because we haven't figured out why we feel that way about money. I just recently uncovered that the reason I feel, and I don't feel this way as much anymore, but sometimes there's still this vein that goes through me that's like, ah, wanting more money than this feels really greedy. And then I'm like, wait. Okay. Why do we feel that way? We feel that way because I grew up in a very religious household, and talking about money and wanting money was inherently greedy. Well, why do I want more money? I want more money because I want to be able to give whenever I feel like it. I want to be able to help people without ever second guessing, well, what's my bank account going to look like after I do this? I don't want to hesitate when it comes to helping other people or giving or helping someone back on their feet. That's why I want a lot of money. And that is not greedy. Money is not greedy. People are greedy. And so when you can separate the two, it's like, oh, okay, all right, let's go after it then.
Absolutely. One of the biggest things that I always share with the women that I work with is like, money is an amplifier. It's going to amplify what's on the inside. So just like you said, it's like, it's not money that is inherently bad. Money is inherently neutral. It's just a resource. It's just a tool, but it amplifies what's on the inside for us, which I'm super curious going back to your inner work journey and like what led you to this position now where you have a completely different relationship with money. You have a more confident relationship with money and you're helping other people step into that for themselves. What was that inner work journey like? Like, give us the real raw nitty gritty of like taking yourself into that inner work journey with your relationship to money.
I'm not going to lie to you. I hated it. I
Yeah.
hated every part of it because I'm a type A. If you haven't guessed that about me already, then I'll just tell you I'm very type A. And so I was like, I don't want to slow down. This feels like I'm stopping. This feels like I'm not moving forward. And it's like the slingshot effect, right? I felt like somebody was dragging me backwards. I don't want to go backwards. I don't ever want to go backwards. And then all of a sudden it was like, holy crap. Someone just let go of that slingshot and I felt weightless, like I could do anything and I could talk about anything when it came to money. And that's freeing. That's like, okay. And then what happens is this fun thing happens where you can actually talk yourself through real life situations, like in real time. In January, the reason I started in this money spiral was all four of us got sick. All four of us had COVID at the same time. That alone was like, okay, are we going to survive this? I mean, truly, because some people don't. And then there was this added level of my husband didn't work for an entire 6 weeks. So that's eliminated his income for 6 weeks. So that we relied on only my income. And so what my ego, and that's another thing, I didn't know that your ego works against you. She's there. I know her job is to keep you safe, but she works against what you are trying to do to grow and expand and take up more space. And she worked really hard on me that 6 weeks. What if your clients don't finish out their contracts? Or what if someone doesn't pay you? What if your husband can't go back to work? All of those what if. And so what I was able to do in real time was say, hey, listen, I know you're scared because we've been that place before and we don't want to be there ever again. However, this is what we've done to protect ourselves from being in that situation. You don't have to freak out. You don't have to worry. We've actually built a life financially and just a life for our family that didn't even include money that protects us from being back in that situation. so we can take this time for ourselves and we can just sit and get better and enjoy this unexpected quarantine time together with 4 people, which can be quite stressful. But it was like, oh gosh, I have the tools to walk myself through anything at this point without backsliding to where we used to be.
So powerful. Everything that you just said. One of the things that I want to hit on in what you just said is like this feeling of you're going backwards or you're slowing down, because I know that that was my reality for such a long time when it came to like doing the inner work or like recognizing any of these things in the first place. Anytime I started to look at my relationship to money or like look at why things weren't going the way that I wanted them to, I would get so freaked out by the idea of actually addressing it and say to myself, okay, I don't even need to look at this. I'm just going to do better. I'm just going to make more. I'm just going to XYZ, like do it so that like I didn't have to address it. I could just push that shit further down and continue to move forward. And I remember one of the first conversations that you and I had, you're saying there comes a day that like just saying to yourself, well, I'm just going to make more doesn't really become an option anymore because there is so much shit that's there in the first place that you're trying to run away from, but it ultimately catches up with you. So I would love for you to like explain why that's not really a great option.
Okay, this is one of my favorite topics. So stop me if you run out of time. But okay, so here's and I'm just as guilty of this because I am very let's go, right? My clients are very guilty of this. What I'll just go make more. I'm really good at sales. I'm really good at closing. That's fantastic. I'm so proud of you because not everybody is good at that, right? However, there are 2 things that can go terribly wrong with that scenario when you're constantly, I'll just go make more. Actually, there are probably 3. So the first one is you haven't addressed your habits with money. You haven't addressed your mindset. So the same mindset and habits that you have with $100 are going to duplicate themselves when you are making $100,000. Your brain is going to go, well, that's a lot of money. We're going to spend it and use it the exact same way that we know how, unless you change that, unless you take steps to change your mindset or change your habits with your money. So that's the first thing. At some point, your habits and your mindset are going to override the amount of money you're making, and you're still not going to have enough money. Making money does not equal having money. It just doesn't. And so the second thing that you're going to run into is you're not going to want to sell forever. You're not going to want to work forever. So what happens when you roll up to this point of your life and you're like, I don't want to sell anymore, but I have no choice. So you're not giving yourself options. One of the things that I teach all the time about is being responsible with your money, and your money mindset actually gives you so many options later that you're going to have, what's going to be annoying at that point is you'll have so many choices. You don't know which one to choose.
Me.
Right. So, but imagine that scenario versus not having any money and not having any options. Like, I would rather have a million options and like find someone to choose one for me because I will never choose. But the third thing that is going to happen is at some point, and if you don't own your own business, it doesn't matter. At some point with your earning potential or your income, you're going to get to a point where it's going to force you to stop everything and get control of your habits and get control of your money. And it's going to be the most inconvenient time of your life if you don't choose the time. So that's what I tell my clients all the time. And this is what I preach about. What would your future self, what is she desperate for you to choose now so that she has options when she's ready? Mm-hmm. And when you can think of it that way, then it's like, oh, okay, I'm not doing this to punish myself now. It's not about that. It's about giving your future self so many options that she can afford to pay somebody to make an option or to choose an option for her if she wants to.
Absolutely. Oh God, I love all of that. And I love that you bring up this piece of like, it's not a punishment.
Mm-mm.
It's not a punishment for us to recognize like the unhealthy habits that we've learned from our conditioning, from our upbringing that surround money. Because the reality is like we live in a world that preaches and teaches money scarcity and preaches and teaches fucked up money habits. So all of us think that like when we're in this challenging position, we have the guilt, we have the shame that like we're the only person in the world who's experiencing that. When in reality, like everybody is to a certain extent. Anybody that you admire in a financial position, like somebody who has greater than you, they've had to work on their shit. They've had to go on this inner work journey to get to the position that they're in. So I'm super curious for you, what was like one of the most challenging things that you had to overcome in your inner work journey to get to the position that you're in now with money?
Mine was scarcity mindset, 1,000,000,000%. And I'm going to tell you why. So I grew up, my parents were raised by parents who went through the Great Depression, right? And so that's a ripple effect that changes the way that the whole family and descendants of the family think about money from that point forward, because people didn't survive the Great Depression because they did not have any money, right? So my parents were raised with save every penny that you have because you never know when. You never know when. But the never know when was never a positive. It was always, you never know when you'll lose your job. You never know when your car will need a repair. And I do believe in being prepared for those things. I do want you to be prepared to take on an expense like that, because that's being kind to yourself, is being prepared for those things, right? However, what that inherently taught me was don't spend money. Don't spend money. That's a lot of money. Don't spend money. I heard that a lot growing up. And I know as an adult that it came from a place of love and protection, but my brain soaked it in as spending money is really bad. Don't spend money. Hoard your money away because you never know when. And I lived that way for a long time. But here's what happened. I'm going to try to do this. I'm speaking with my hands if you're seeing me in person. But I want you to close your eyes and think of a pendulum. A pendulum swings back and forth, right? So if you hold the pendulum over to one side, that, let's just call that restriction. You're not allowed to spend money. Okay. You can do that for a really long time. You can live in restriction for a really long time. Is it fun? No. Can you do it? Absolutely. But what happens is that one day of emotional distress or emotional excitement, like, oh, I got a new job, let me treat myself, or I had the worst day ever, I'm going to go walk Target. Like, what happens is the pendulum swings all the way to the other side, and now you are binge spending money because you deserve it. I haven't done this in a long time. I work really hard. I should be able to fill in the blank. As soon as you spend that money, though, what kicks in? The guilt, the shame, the disgust. I can't even keep a promise to myself. I can't even not spend money. Look at me. I do the same thing over and over. And so then you kick yourself back to restriction. So you're living in this back and forth world that neither side feels good. Neither of those spaces feels good to your brain, to your soul. So if you can live, I don't believe in the word balanced because that's a lie, but if you can live in a more middle ground life where you're allowed to spend money, but you only spend it on the things that you care about, you're not going to let someone tell you how to spend your money, but you know what lights you up and you know what you value, then that's where you should spend your money. I had a client tell me just a couple weeks ago, she fought me for 6 months on a personal money plan / budget. Do not roll your eyes at the B word. Don't roll your eyes at the B word. So it's just a plan for your money. It's just a written down plan for where you're going to send your money when you get it. But she fought me for 6 months. And when she finally did it, it took her 30 minutes and she voice memoed me, I am so pissed We have spent multiple Mexico trips on eating out the last 6 months. Like, think about that. So, what that told me was she valued vacation time with her family, but that's not where she was spending her money. She was spending her money on convenience and impulses and things like that. And so, what we were able to do was say, okay, well, that's the first thing that came to your mind. You need to plan a trip to Mexico, and that needs to be what you spend your money on. And so, it's just a shift in framing things for yourself. That's all it is. And when you can kind of trick your brain into going, oh, yeah, that makes way more sense. Oh, that feels better, then it's not that hard.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Oh God, I love all of that again, because I know that so many people work through their scarcity mindsets or don't work through their scarcity mindsets and truly just live in that position of scarcity. And you're exactly right on like restriction. Like restriction doesn't work for anybody in any sort of way, whether it be money, whether it be your diet, whether it be exercise, whether it be anything. And that's one of the things that we were talking about before hopping on this call is like that your money habits and your money confidence and the way that you show up financially also spills into the other areas of your life. And I think that so much of that has to do with becoming the highest version of yourself, kind of like you were saying earlier, that like connecting with that highest version of yourself and recognizing like, what would she do? What would she prioritize? Like you're just saying, like, that it gets to be like what you would prioritize. So what have you noticed for yourself since like healing your relationship with money and having this confident relationship with money? What has happened in the other areas of your life?
Well, um, if we're just talking about family to begin with, it's I don't check the bank account 15 times a day. I don't even check it once a day anymore, right? Because I know what's happening. I don't need to look at it. But that gave me a lot of mental space to be able to hang out with my family or take my kids to go do something. We took the kids, we actually kept them out of school last week and we spent the whole day at the zoo. I would have never, ever done that even probably 2 years ago. Like, even 2
Mhm.
years ago, I was really like, it has to be this way, it has to look like this, and I have to follow these steps." Um, so just allowing myself to do things that I enjoy doing and to I honestly feel like I make decisions faster.
Mhm.
So now that I'm not worried about money, even if a decision doesn't include money, I am able to come to a decision faster because my brain isn't like smoking out over money, what we do or what we don't have. I just talked about this today on social media, but I took a walk this morning around our property, also something I would have never done um,
Mhm.
a couple years ago. And I had a podcast on, and a mile and a half, I looked down, or I looked at my watch, and I had walked a mile and a half, and I realized I'd been looking at my shoelaces the entire time. Like,
Mhm.
I'd been looking at my feet outside for the whole mile and a half, and my brain was like, "Ooh, that's how you handled your money for years. You looked at today and only today. Tomorrow didn't matter because we didn't plan that far in advance. Like, we were stuck in what we did or didn't have today." And I feel like a lot of choices have just opened up for me in other ways. Like, do I want to step away from work and go out to eat with a friend in the middle of the day? Yeah, I do. I sure do. Do we want to take a weekend trip to the beach? And yes, some of these things involve money, but the decision isn't made from a place of money. The decision is made because my brain is free to think about other things, that I
Mhm.
can feel joy and excitement over other things and not worry about, well, how will that affect us financially? So, it's just so many things. Even meal planning. I know that this sounds so weird, but like meal planning, I don't worry about how much the grocery bill is going to be at the end of meal planning. So, like, I just add things to cart. Do we have kind of a cap where we'd like to keep things? Yes, because our goal is not to spend all of our money on groceries. Our goal is to be able to retire 20, 25 years early. That's what we value. but I'm not going to skimp on groceries to get there. So I think that's what shifted for me. It's no longer about, ooh, can we do this? Ooh, should we do this? Do we want to do this? Does it make sense? Then yes, let's do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm. There's so many things that come up. So first thing that comes up for me off of what you just said is this piece of looking down right here, right now. This is the only thing that exists, as opposed to the grand scheme and like what our life truly is and like what is available to us if we take this narrowed, blinded approach and widen it and allow ourselves to see like what is possible for ourselves long term, especially financially. How do you feel as though it was for you making that shift to be able to go from like, this is it, to like, okay, I'm going to widen myself up to like what is possible for me long term?
It was really scary at first. I'm not going to lie to you, because when I think of it as like a magnifying glass, you have your face in your day-to-day numbers, but when you pull yourself up to a bird's eye view, you can move all the pieces around, right? Like you can see all the pieces to move. When I saw all the pieces that I was working with after being so rigid with money for so long, it was scary because I thought I have so far to go. How am I not any closer when I've controlled money for so long? Um, and what I had to realize was it's not about how close you are today, because that's compound interest, first of all, is a beautiful thing. And so if you just start today instead of putting it off tomorrow, and then again and again, like we do for our diets on Monday, I'll just wait until Monday. I'll just wait until the beginning of next month when I get my next paycheck. Stop waiting. Like if you have $5 today, start with $5, because
Mhm.
$5 is going to turn into 50. 50 is going to turn into 1,000. 1,000 is going to turn into 20,000. But don't be afraid to start with what you do have, because it's never as bad as you think it is. We didn't start investing again until I was 32. Okay. I want everybody to hear that. 32 years old. That's really old to start investing in like the grand scheme of things, right? We're in, so that was 4 years ago. We started investing again after we'd stopped for so long. Um, we're on track to both retire. Both of us retire in like 20. I think the last calculation was close to 25 years early, if we
Mhm.
want to. I mean, what that's amazing. If I had looked at my choices when I broadened my vision and thought, well, I'll never get there, and just not done anything, I'd still be in the same position today, and I'd still be discouraged, and I'd still be struggling with money, and I'd still be wondering, will we be able to pay that bill this month?
Yep, absolutely. 100%. And what comes up for me as you say that, I was going to ask you, like, for somebody who's in this position, who resonates with your message, like, what's the first step that they can take? But it's like, it sounds as though this is the first step, is
Yeah.
starting with what you have right now. If it's $1, if it's $5, if it's $10, making your money work for you versus just saying to yourself, I can't fucking do it.
Yeah. No, and the thing is, oh, you have to get intimate with your numbers. It might be really
Mm-hmm.
scary because your brain is telling you all these wild ideas about what it's going to look like. And the majority of the time, it's not as bad as you think it is. It's not as bad as you've built it up to be in your mind, but you don't know because all of the numbers are not in one place and you're not intimate with those numbers. But here's the thing, once everything's out of your brain, especially as women, we let things swirl and swirl and swirl in our brain until it's like a flippin' infection in there, right? Like that's all we can think about because we don't have the answer. But as soon as the answer comes, we're like, oh man, that makes me feel so much better. I don't have to think about that ever again. That's
Yep.
what being intimate with your numbers is. It's just taking all of that out of your head and putting it on paper or putting it in a spreadsheet. And then from that point, you know, here's what I have to work with. Now, what am I going to do with it? Am I going to eat McDonald's every day? Or am I going to put $5 in an investment account and see what happens?
Yeah. Yep. there's so many things in this conversation that like we've talked about that I literally was talking about with my clients this morning too. And I love that you've been talking about this with your clients as well, because it's like, just once again, for everybody who's listening, it's like, you are not alone. People, especially us women, like we experience these things. And just like you said, as women, we do this thing of like really sitting on something, really letting it fester and like feeling fearful of that. And the way that I like to put it for my clients is like, you're scared of the monster in the closet. Like we're all scared of the monster in the closet growing up. And as soon as you open that closet door, you face whatever is on the other side, you open it up and it's a tiny little kitten that is just meowing away and like just wanting attention and like wanting you to give it some love, because that's exactly what's going on with your finances, especially when you're avoiding them. Like if you avoid your finances, it's going to feel fucking scary to look at them. But when you do, then it's so much peace, so much clarity. Like you said, being able to know what you can prioritize, what you want to prioritize, and be able to put your power back into your finances.
Well, the other thing is it releases a lot of tension that you are actually holding in your body. So all of these unknown answers or unknown questions are actually manifesting themselves physically in your body. Like your headaches that you're getting all the time, guaranteed it's from all the stress and the worrying. Your backaches and the neck pain and just feeling zero energy, all of that is from lack of knowing. So your worry that everything is going to be bad actually just comes from a place of unknowingness. You don't know what's on the other side. And so it's almost laughable when you get everything down because you're like, oh gosh, I've worried about that for how many years? Like I can actually take a breath today. So just write it down. It doesn't even have to be pretty. You could do it on a piece of paper. You could do it on the back of a scrap piece of paper. I don't care where it is, if it's in an app. Put all of your numbers in one place. And now you know. Now you can take a step forward and decide what you're going to do with that money.
Absolutely. God, love this. So for anyone who's listening, for our women listening who wants to feel like a confident bad bitch in her finances, what's like the first step she can take?
Okay, so you have to get all of your personal numbers together first. Even if you own a business, do not roll your eyes at me on this one either. You cannot flourish with your business expenses if your personal expenses and your personal finances are a mess. Your habits in your personal are going to translate to your business or whatever you are trying to do financially, right? So focus on personal first. Focus on whatever income you have coming in, write it all down. And I'm talking everything. Like, do you sell things and get PayPal money? Write it down. Like, do you get Venmo payments from people? Write it down. Do you have $5 of cash in your pocket? Write it down, because all of that money combined is money that you can use that you are currently not using to your benefit. It is a tool. It is leverage to get where you want to go. And so even if it's $5 that you have laying, or like you count the coins under your cushion, it doesn't matter to me. It's money that you have at your disposal. And so write it down and then just keep track of all of your expenses, everything that you have to pay, all of the debts that you have to pay, like regular household payments, food, gas, write it all down. And at the end of the month, see what you have left. And if you do have money left, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to use it to your benefit, or are you going to stay right where you are today and wish that you had? If you don't have anything left, how are you going to change that? Because it doesn't have to be that way. Do you need to make more money? Do you need to spend less? Or do you need to do a combination of both of those? Because I do realize realistically that some people don't make enough money, and that's okay right now, but that is not okay forever. You get to take control of that and decide, am I going to make more money, or am I going to cut my expenses? Am I going to do both and really up level myself?
1000%.
So personal money, do your personal money first and feel how freeing it is. I know people hate the word budget. I just have to touch on this, Kat. People hate the word budget. I call it the B word in my programs because I literally see people roll their eyes when I say budget.
Yeah.
Here's how I want you to think of it though. when you were younger and you learned to bowl, chances are an adult put the bumpers up for you, right? So that you weren't totally destroyed by the fact that you didn't know how to bowl right off the bat, right? So they put the bumpers up for you. The whole point of the bumpers is to keep the ball moving forward, because the goal is to knock down all the pins. Your budget is literally bumpers at a bowling alley. It is the boundaries that you set for your money to keep yourself and your family walking forward to whatever financial goal you have at the end of the alley. So the budget should not be scary. It is not restrictive. It is not scarcity built. It is to keep you on track to the financial goals that you say you have for yourself. So we're not going to roll our eyes at the B word anymore.
No, and that's true abundance mindset, because it's like everything is inherently neutral. So it's like, whether you see a budget right now as bad or wrong or negative or something that's restrictive to you, that's a choice.
Oh, that's good. That's really good.
Thank you. It's so true though. And like, same with like what you just said is like, if somebody's not making enough money, or if their spending is in a position that like puts them in a challenging scenario every single month, it's like, that is a choice too. Everything in life is our choice. And if you're listening to this podcast episode, you're privileged enough to have the choice to use this time to build the knowledge, and knowledge without action and taking aligned and inspired action on it is completely wasted. So like, use this information and allow yourself to better yourself and better your finances because of it. Because just like Becca was saying, it's like, that spills into all other areas of your life. Like, that allows you to be the highest version of yourself, the baddest bitch version of yourself in all areas of your life. And I could talk about this forever with you. But with that being said, I have one last question for you. For everyone out there, what is one piece of no bullshit advice you can give to them?
I have so many. I need you to hear again, I'll make more money is not a strategy alone. It cannot be your only strategy. If it is, you are going to roll into the end of your life wondering, what do I have to show for this? And making more money is amazing. And at some point, once you get everything under control, you can make loads and loads of money. But what I also want you to understand is, at every level, at every up level, if you will experience some mindset shifts, as in, you will have to do more inner work. This isn't like a one and done thing, right? When it comes to money, those things are really deep in you. And as soon as you hit a new income level, or as soon as you hit new income in general, chaos will ensue. You can guarantee it. You can bet your life on it. It may come in the form of like all of your appliances dying in your house at the same time. True story, that happened to me last year.
Oh no.
Your kid has to go to the ER. I don't know. Whatever it is, chaos will ensue. It is your job to look at it from a perspective of, it's fine. It is not a big deal, because I've prepared for this. This is exactly why I've done what I've done. And I'm like, things are going to happen still. Just because you get in control of your money does not mean you're never going to have any worries with your money. That is a lie. If anybody tells you that, they are lying to you. So you just have to be in this for the long run. And you get to move your goalpost at any point. You get to move it further away, closer to you. It doesn't matter. But your money goals and the way that you do your money does not have to be the same as everybody else. So that was a lot in one, but again, I could be here for 6 hours.
I know, me too. I seriously could talk to you about money all day long. And one thing that I want to reiterate that you said to tie into that last piece is that, ladies listening to this, you will have the same limiting beliefs and challenging experiences with money, no matter how much money you make, if you are not doing the inner work. Yep. Doesn't matter if you have $5 in your bank account or $500,000 in your bank account. If you do not do the inner work to heal your relationship with money, doesn't matter how much is sitting in your bank account, it's something that you're going to experience. So like, everything that Becca shared with us in this interview and everything that we teach is so, so necessary for you to have long-lasting, sustainable change and consistency inside of your finances.
Agreed.
Yay. Awesome. This has been such a kick-ass conversation, and hopefully one that all of you listeners will be able to take away and put some really awesome practical and also internal steps in to create this shift and change inside of your finances. But with all of this, because this has been so fucking awesome, and I'm sure people are going to want to be in contact with you, please let us know where we can find you and if you have anything going on that the listeners can be a part of.
Okay. Yeah. So I basically live on Instagram. It's at Becca Gonzalez Co. Gonzalez is with 2 Z's. People misspell it all the time. I also live on Facebook now. So I have a Facebook group called Mindset Over Money for female entrepreneurs. So if you don't have to be a female entrepreneur. There's lots of stuff that you can gain from that. There's going to be lots of free coaching and question answering, and just really, honestly, I want women to feel comfortable talking about money and just being like pulling up their seat at the table for the money conversations. And that's what that group is all about. And if you want steps to actually take to get control of your money, you can DM me, you can ask me questions. I am a real life person who answers her DMs. So yeah, I'd love to be able to help you and give you some next steps if that's what you need.
Yeah, amazing. Everybody go connect with Becca. Her information is going to be listed down below in the show notes. And Becca, just thank you again for coming on to the show.
Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for listening to today's episode. I'm so grateful to have these no bullshit talks with you. If you enjoyed today's episode or the podcast as a whole, please spread the love by leaving me a review on iTunes or sharing the podcast with others. This is how I will be able to spread more of these good vibes and be able to make more of an impact on the lives of others. And if you're not already part of all of the goodness and communities that I have to offer, check out the show notes. I have links to the different ways that I can support you on your manifestation journey and help you live a life full of more money, fulfillment, and freedom. But that is all for now. So big love and hugs, and I will chat with you soon, babe.